Another tough weekend in the city of Chicago. Gun violence continues to surge, and this is what the mayor has to say. Take a look.
I want you to know that we are doing absolutely everything that we can to stem the violence. We must continue to urge our young people to put down the guns. We have to love them. And tonight and today is about love. I promise you that I see you, that I hear you, and that I feel you. You will never be lost to me.
Remember when the term thoughts and prayers triggered the left? But now it's only okay when Democrats apparently offer their thoughts and prayers. Look, over the weekend we saw another spike in shootings. A man was shot and killed as he stood in Chicago in front of a 24-hour convenience store Saturday evening on a busy street in Chatham on the south side. On Saturday, a teenage boy was killed, another seriously wounded in a shooting in Inglewood on the south side. There were 56 shot, 11 fatally last weekend alone. So is Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot really doing everything she can, or really anything she needs to do here? Or is she just going to blame everybody else? Joining me now is Chicago Alderman and Democrat Raymond Lopez. Alderman Lopez, good to see you again.
Always a pleasure. How are you?
Tell us just what's going on now. I mean, give us a view into the politics of the political situation here in Chicago, where it feels increasingly like the mayor is just stalling or deflecting or living in an alternate universe when it comes to the problem of homicides and shootings in your city. What's going on?
Well, I think it's a bit of all of the above, sadly. I said from the get-go that the mayor seems to be trying to run out the clock on getting to Labor Day so that she can get summer violence behind her. She routinely says that violence is trending downward, although I don't know in what reality, that exists, because clearly you see weekend over weekend over weekend, our numbers are on the rise and escalating. Even year to date, they are worse than they were in 2020, despite all of the madness that was 2020. And yet she continues to blame everything except her policies for why we are where we are. I think even just yesterday, she blamed now COVID as the root for violence in the city of Chicago, where before it was racism and before that it was something else. The one thing she has never called out is gangs. And that is what's driving the violence in our city. And I don't think she has a plan for it. She's proven she doesn't have a plan for it. Even Our City, Our Safety, her 103-page manifesto for increasing safety in 15 neighborhoods backfired by a dozen of those neighborhoods becoming more unsafe than they were when she wrote the document.
There was an article highlighting the surging numbers. You mentioned the numbers, but in Chicago, in percentages, year by year, it's an enormous increase. 336 homicides in the first 6 months of the year in Chicago, 1,892 shootings. It's just stunning that could even be the number through June 28th. Is this something that all Chicagoans recognize pretty much as a crisis, or is it just some parts of the city and a lot of people ignore the day-to-day reality? I mean, how much is this on the minds of folks who live in America's third largest city?
No, I think this is on the mind of everybody in the city of Chicago, to be quite honest, regardless what neighborhood they live in. What used to be someone else's issue is now everyone's issue. And I think to that point, that's the only thing that the mayor has been able to do with regards to equity. She's made all of Chicagoans equally afraid to go out of their homes. We've seen violence escalating, and we don't see any effort by the mayor, her superintendent, or Kim Foxx, or any of them, or anybody else for that matter, to try and stem the violence in our streets. They rather play politics, they rather point fingers, they rather blame, everything other than themselves for why we're here. And Chicagoans are tired of it. They're afraid. They are voting with their feet. They are moving out. They're afraid to keep their families here. And I hear this on a daily basis when so many people are afraid just to go outside and water their lawns because they might get shot, or send their kids to school because they don't know if they're going to come.
I just want to ask you about a headline. Pardon me for interrupting, but I want to ask you about some headlines about freeway shootings and a huge surge in freeway shootings in Chicago, including where people, it seems, are just firing off rounds at random. What is this very troubling phenomenon?
We've seen in recent months this escalation where, we used to just think it was because of COVID, people were too pent up and frustrated and just, taking out their anxieties on road rage. But road rage now is merging with gun violence in the city of Chicago. And I myself get anxious when I have to travel on some of our expressways, because they are the expressways where oftentimes travelers, drivers are being struck by bullets just as they're trying to go about their daily routine. And we see this more and more on the streets and the expressways in the city of Chicago. We're not making much headway in trying to identify what's driving it other than road rage. And I think that says a lot, because it's not anything in particular other than people being frustrated and using a gun to resolve their frustrations.
What is the Chicago PD, the Chicago Police Department brass, the people that are running that department? Do they have a plan in place? Is there a way forward that they would like the mayor's office to actually sign off on? Because, whether it's New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, a number of major cities across the country all feel like there's been more attention on the issue of violent crime and shootings, but not a lot of action. Is there a Chicago action plan to get this under control?
Sadly, I don't think there is a qualified Chicago action plan that's going to work. And I have to take a moment and just pause and say, I give huge amounts of credit to the frontline police officers, those brave men and women working in the streets, trying to keep it together for Chicago, in spite of what the brass is telling them. Our brass tells them that they can't chase them in their vehicles. They can't run after them. We cannot even tase them now because a criminal might hurt themselves on whatever weapons they are carrying. It is absolutely insane where we are going in terms of what policies the brass is coming up with that our officers have to utilize when they're trying to apprehend a suspect. But what I think we need to do is we need to focus on consequences. We need to start arresting people, even for the small things. Some people would say it's burdensome, but we have to start bringing back the broken windows theory that former Mayor Giuliani had in New York City when he brought crime under control. That you cannot let the small things go because they only escalate into larger issues, and we need to start doing that in Chicago and elsewhere.
Alderman, really appreciate you joining us, and we hope this gets turned around and that your city has better days ahead. But thank you for sharing your perspective.
Likewise, it will.